Into Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 7th episode of Second Chances. And today's episode is a very special one to my heart because my guest today is a beautiful young lady that I love dearly. And she's such a beautiful person, not only on the outside, but the inside. And I'm very excited. And I hope there's going to be a lot of value and a lot of energy because she's very energetic. She brings a lot of positive energy and a lot of information and knowledge. And I'm speaking about my dear friend Maya Al-Hawari, and she is I'm so excited. She is UAE's first PhD scholar researching emotional intelligence and leadership, and 2019's TEDx speaker talking about tolerance, which is amazing. So I'm your host. My name is Dr. Hanan Salim. I'm recognized by the World Global Health and Wellness Gurus as the most influential leader and thought leader in health and well-being, because I've designed something that I feel is important, that people should understand that there are second chances to life. There are second chances to getting control over your life, your health, and well-being. And hence, I have the roadmap and created a roadmap in my book called Second Chances, hence why we call the show Second Chances. And the reason I created the show really is I felt that not only should I just be speaking about, the ideas and the experiences and the knowledge, but I felt like if I brought up on especially amazing experts who could bring on firsthand experience and knowledge, not just the, what's written in books and information like that. I want to bring ideas that's been used and used firsthand experience. So without further ado, I want to introduce Maya. This is, she's, as I mentioned, the chairwoman of the Board of Governors and the director of planning for Dubai Carmel School. She's also the first PhD scholar to research emotional intelligence and its effect on leadership. She's a certified trainer on soft skills in the UAE government, trained around the country, all 7 Emirates, a motivational speaker, and a social media influencer on all social media platforms, who became a TEDx speaker in the year 2019 on tolerance. She was given the title Ambassador of Knowledge for the UAE Red Crescent for the years 2017 and 2018 for her contributions as a volunteer speaker. Last but not least, she was given the noble title Tolerance Knight. We're going to speak about that from His Excellency Sheikh Abdulaziz bin Hamad Al Nahmi. So without further ado, here is my dear friend and lovely Maya.
Habib, thank you so much for having me. This is such a pleasure. We, subhanallah, clicked when we first met, and that was like the most beautiful moments are people that you meet all of a sudden, but you click like you've known them for 10 years or more. So such a pleasure being with you, Dr. Hanan, and thank you so much for having me as part of your Second Chances journey.
Thank you for joining me and bringing your, going away from your valuable time and joining and bring us your expertise and your knowledge. First off, I know I hope I did justice to your introducing you, but if you want to add anything introducing that I missed or anything like that, the floor is yours.
Not at all. I think you've had it and you've done it well, mashallah. Thank you so much for the beautiful introduction. I'm honored, and when I hear my introduction, I feel, wow, it has been a journey, and I feel like I have been given a second chance, alhamdulillah. And I think, the main idea of this episode and every other episode that you have is to show people that we lead by example. We learn from each other, and if we don't share, it doesn't really count. So because we know that sharing is caring. So thank you so much for having me again.
Thank you. So speaking of second chances, how was your journey you mentioned you have a second chances journey. So give us an overview because, mashallah, you have amazing success and you've come a long way and you've gotten a lot of awards, recognitions, TEDx talks. So a lot of people think like you and myself and people who are like, quote unquote success, everybody's success, of course, is different. So they think it's an overnight thing. Like they don't see the journey. They don't see the sacrifices, if you will, the hard work and everything like that. Can you give us a brief of your second chances journey?
Actually, I was speaking today to 150 employees from one of the capital's companies, and it was interesting and funny enough that you mentioned the same thing I mentioned today, that people think that you are just perfect. Yep. That you have the success, you have the looks, alhamdulillah, and you have the personality and the confidence, and it just comes like that. If I were to say I still struggle. Every day is a struggle to keep me afloat. But what I can say is that from my past journey, I've learned to control it better. I've learned from history to be able to manage it better. And that's where I stumbled upon the notion called emotional intelligence. So if I were to go about 8 years ago, Maya was a vice principal of a school. Well, actually, 17 years ago, I was a vice principal for 8 years, and then a principal for 2 years under His Highness Sheikh Nahyan bin Mubarak. So that's a 10 years of school experience, private school experience. And for those who are not very familiar with the United Arab Emirates, we as Emirati women are mostly as principals are in government education, so public school education. But rarely will you find, probably 4 or 5 women around the Emirates will actually lead a private curriculum school, i.e. either British or American system. So alhamdulillah, myself and my mother, I follow her footsteps. We led the pack in the United Arab Emirates. After 10 years of that, I realized that I didn't enjoy what I did. And at that same summer, like after 10 years, I was thinking to myself, what am I doing? Am I just doing this because my mom has her school and I'm helping her and supporting her? And yes, I'm good at what I do. I think that's what is important that we mention. It doesn't mean that you're good at something, it means that you actually are passionate about it, because passion is a different thing than giving, than being good at something. You could be passionate about drawing, but you have to go to this job every day, but you'd rather be painting all day. So the thing that hit me at that time is that I didn't know what my passion was. All I knew was being principal and vice principal. I always knew in my heart that I was unique, but I didn't know what and why and who. That same summer was high stress. Same summer, my friend's daughter died when she was about 18. She was, subhanAllah, she has a lot of, I always pray for her, because she was the spark of who I am today. And it was almost like an awakening where somebody slapped me in the face and said, why did she die? She didn't even see anything. She didn't even get to go to college. And she was an A student. She was muhajjab, mashallah, and beautiful, beautiful child. I mean, I saw her in front of my eyes, raised from she was KG1 all the way to high school. And why would this happen? So a lot of questions came to mind. But then after that slap, I went through a depression of 5 years. And people look at me and they say, Maya, you're too good to be 5 years into turmoil. In fact, my journey was meant to be 5 years for me to rise and be the person I am today. I look at it and I say, thank God, it was the best thing that has ever happened to me. If I didn't go through that depression, which I didn't choose, and this is where I learned that the best things that happen to you are almost everything in life is not chosen by choice. It's meant to be the way it is. You're meant to see it this way because there's a learning that you need to learn and pick up from that circumstance. Those 5 years, they shook my world. To me, it was like I remember thinking of suicide twice. I had children. They were young. They needed a mom. And I have a special needs child. So I thought to myself, if I do something or I hurt myself, then what would I do? What would this little child do? She's helpless. She needs a mom. So, in a strange way, she saved my life twice. And I still hung in there. And I knew, I didn't know what was coming really. At the same time, I'm a Muslim and I had lost my faith. So I was wondering where God was. And was there really a God? And then if there was a God, then why am I suffering? And what is this? What is the purpose of this suffering? I.e., what is the purpose of you being on this earth? Were we just born to eat, drink, sleep, marry, and die? That doesn't make sense because she never lived to see all of that. Mm. So it was those two things, high stress, the death, and the loss of my faith, and not being, and I, by the way, I kept praying. I did Baqarah every day. I did Qiyam every day. I did everything because people used to tell me, Maya, hasad, you know, all the beautiful things that are mentioned in the Quran. But yes, I believe in. However, at the time, I didn't know there was really, you know, that power. Yeah. So I had to hang in there because I knew from experience that this too shall pass and that it will be better because after every low, there is a high. So I hung in there, but the low took quite a long time for me to rise. In the midst of this, can you imagine? I'm thankful that I was depressed in a time where there was Wi-Fi and there was YouTube, because YouTube saved my life as well. I'm an audiovisual type of learner. Yes. And I'd rather listen and see to you speak about your book. I'll pick up and memorize that book just because I see you speaking. I do read when I have to read, but it's not like a bookworm, you know. And that's a fact. Those are facts that we need to learn about ourselves because these facts make you the better version of you. We tend to live the way others dictate us to live. But because we are shy to even say that, I don't have a hobby. Like at 33, I didn't know what hobby I had. I don't know. Those are questions that you look at yourself and you say, they're very simple questions, but and if you really think deep, it's like you don't really have one. What do you do? So I call it the journey of finding myself. And it was really literally a lost soul. From YouTube, I stumbled upon the notion emotional intelligence. And delving and diving into that topic, I noticed that nobody in the Arab world was talking about it except for one doctor, and he's a Saudi doctor. And he mentioned it once in a 7-minute episode called Mahyai in Ramadan. And at the time, they were just putting up episodes from Ramadan episodes. They were putting it on the web. And I stumbled upon this notion called emotional intelligence. And it triggered a bell, and I started researching it even more. By the end of my depression, I couldn't say that I had it, but at least I knew what was going on. And through improving on my emotional intelligence, I was able to get medical help, to accept the fact that to fix you, you need to do the research, but you also need to do the medication. And I went under medication for 2 years. Alhamdulillah, medication free now for 3 years. And I found my passion, and that is when I love education, but I didn't want it to be high school and below. I wanted it to be high school and beyond. Because children will always find people who will help them. Yes. Adults like you and I, we won't. We're really standing alone. Because the older we get, sharing is not caring. Sharing is being judged. Yes. So why on earth would I even share? Let me be at least a perfect image. And then when you fall, you find nobody for you. You know?
I appreciate that, Maya, because Yani subhanallah, you know, this is why I think we connected so well, is because being a Muslim Arab woman, it's like not supposed to be shown that we were, having these depressions, or speaking about openly about suicide. I mean, across the world, it's a voodoo kind of topic. And I just want to just point out that the person you are today, and you're able to openly speak about this, is because you're so above and beyond it, that don't feel that you need to hide it or shame it or defend it or pretend or trying to prove anything, right? Which is actually very important to be you, right? And the only thing, to be authentic, is when we stop doing those things of pretending, hiding, proving, and defending whatever we're not supposed to, quote unquote, speak about being from this culture. And what resonates your story with me, which I really appreciate, and this is why what I love about you, is you're very authentic, and you're very straightforward, and you tell it like it is, because you really want your message to be heard and acknowledged. And look, guys, this is not just from the books. Yeah, this is from my experience, and you have no issue with bringing that to help others, which is another thing that I love about you. And you just reminded me of the time that when I'm an international speaker, so every time I go on stage to speak about my the journey and the emotional journey, my second chances, I feel like I'm going to break down and cry, and I'm going to be vulnerable. And the vulnerability, how could I be doing that on a big stage? I'm talking with a lot of these leaders, influencers on stage. And you know what? I said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to say it. I'm going to speak. And that's when I realized there is power in it.
Of course.
The power is acknowledging, speaking about it. And, once I got off that stage, I realized, oh my God, I am over it. I understand it. I know it exists, but then it doesn't have that hold on me that it used to, that gave me the fear that I can't deal with it, So I really, I love your story, and thank you so much for being so authentic. And this is letting me into your emotional intelligence. Speak us more about that, how you were able to, bring it to UAE, all 7 Emirates. Is very impressive.
Oh, thank you. I will, yes. So after finding out what was going on and getting the right help, and again, it's always work in progress. You never get it right. There is no end result. There is no place where you arrive. No, when you arrive is when you see results from your work, from praise, from history, from what you've done, from the sort of activities that you enroll in, the love that you have around you. So emotional intelligence for me was a hot topic, and nobody was touching upon it. So I thought to myself, what if I was to submit to a university and say, I want to research this and its effect on leadership? And because it's about leading oneself, and then to be able to lead others, because that's what emotional intelligence is. Emotional intelligence is 5 things. Number 1, self-awareness. Number 2, self-control. Number 3, the ability to motivate yourself to get up in the morning actually excited, even though nothing's going on. But at least you have that in you.
Yeah.
Number 4 is social awareness. And number 5 is social handling. People like to say it's social control, but it's more like, how do you understand the people? So if we look at this closely, it's basically taking care of yourself, being selfish to yourself, succeed, motivates to succeed and produce for yourself, create yourself a name, love yourself, give yourself the time, but then never stay there. You need to give back to community. Because, we know that Yadullah ma'al jama'ah, and this means that there is this oneness in togetherness.
Yes.
SubhanAllah, in Ramadan, you don't feel that you have difficulty in fasting because everybody's fasting. But when you fast alone, you feel like you're alone, and days are longer. It's the same thing. Same thing. So when you take care of yourself and you're selfish to yourself, then you're able to give back to others. Because this is why we judge each other. This is why we're not kind to each other. It's because we have resentment, believe it or not. It goes around and it comes back to you. You have resentment in yourself. You have judgment in yourself. Why do we judge others? Because that's what it's a habit. We even judge ourselves. We think that we shouldn't be but the perfect image. And if you're not the perfect image, then you're not good enough. That's judgment.
Yes.
It makes you, even judgment makes you feel guilty. Like the max, if you judge yourself so much, it's like your expectations. You're raising expectations. And if you fail, then you actually feel guilty and it just hits you, shatters your world.
Yes.
So imagine it's the same thing with others. So whatever hatred, whatever, if I were to say how we deal with others is really a mirror image of how you deal with yourself. That's the gist of it. So emotional intelligence begins with you, then others. And then I thought to myself, this needs to come out. And I applied to Hamdan bin Mohammed Smart University, and they accepted it. I didn't know. One day, after we went through the process of the exception and the approval, and it was a process. You apply an abstract, then they say, okay, we'll see, we'll give you a call. Then they sent me an email a month later saying, you come in for an interview. We're still in the interviewing process. And then after I interviewed, they called me a month later saying, you're accepted, congratulations. Then they called us. And I remember until this day, the first time I sat in front of professors and they were looking, I had only 3 people next to me, 3 colleagues. They're my cohort now. And they said, congratulations, you were chosen from 100 applicants. In my mind, I was like, wow, I didn't think that I was going to be accepted. And I I without a doubt knew I will be accepted. But when I got there and I saw 100 applicants, I mean, if you tell me that Maya, 100 applicants into that you and your luck, you'd be doubting if you get there. So I realized here that if you don't doubt the energy, you don't doubt your capabilities, you really believe in focusing on that intention, and especially if intentions are clear, giving back to others, not just for yourself, it happens. And that whole circumstance taught me what the law of attraction is, and what does when you focus your intentions, like almost like when you come into a parking and you think of a parking spot, it's like, oh my God, no, I have to find a parking spot. The cinema's coming up. I only have 10 minutes. And because you did not put a shred of a doubt in there, it happened. How did that happen? It's not by coincidence. So this taught me there are no coincidences in life. There's no such thing as bad luck or good luck. Everything is meant to be the way it is. And that's why I was accepted. And a year later, I found out that I was the only one researching emotional intelligence and its effect on leadership in the MENA region. I found this last year, early this year. And the first in the United Arab Emirates, obviously. It was a pleasure. I remember looking back and thinking, wow, I didn't choose to be depressed. I didn't choose to be accepted. What I did is I went with the flow. I went with my gut. And I was honest about my feelings towards others. And honest about the giving. And subhanAllah, things just, unraveled even to better than what I expected. So the lesson is, no matter how low you are in a position, there will come a time where you will rise very high. So it's almost like an elastic band where you go so low, but it will spring up so high. But there is a condition there, and that is you have to be able to believe that good
Mm.
times are coming your way.
Faith. Have
If
faith. Yeah.
Yes, if you have to have faith. If you doubt that faith, because you don't know, it could take 1 year, could take 1 month, could take 5 years. For me, it took
Mm.
5 years. And I was about to give up. But every time I gave up, something came up, a message came, or a book came, or somebody passed by me. You know those, I call them universal messages, that they
Yeah.
keep going, they keep you hanging. Can you
Mm.
imagine if you're aware of it? And
Yes.
that you are rising on a different wavelength and you
Yes.
accept whatever happens. Just that mere acceptance gives you happiness, the happiness that we all talk about and we want and long to be in training and workshops. And I want to find happiness. I want to find inner peace.
Mm.
So it was it still is a beautiful journey. COVID-19 was another new.
This is my question. I always ask my guests this one. What do you feel? I mean, in Dubai, where everything is starting to, get back, into the economy and everything are opening up. So, do you really? Everybody's talking about this new normal, right? So, do you think this is going to be the new normal, or are we going to actually go back to what we're used to, or the old normal? What is your perspective on this?
Okay, I really believe. Okay, so here's what happened to me in COVID. When COVID hit and Dubai was locked down for 24 hours for 3 weeks, I used to have panic attacks. And this is me, the emotional intelligence queen, if you may. Like, why am I even affected? I should have gotten this down. I'm supposed to be perfect at this. But that wasn't the case. It took me about 2 weeks to gather myself together. You're panicking. You're scared to get sick. I recently divorced. We spoke about that, and me and the kids are in the house, and that is also a responsibility. Obviously, I was blessed that I have them with me, but then you yourself need to gather this to be able to run the household.
Yeah.
So that was one side. Fear of sickness, that was another thing. And then my life stopped. I'm a trainer. I'm a humanitarian. I work with people. That's how I best function. So what is this? It shattered my world. It stopped work, school, training, everything you can imagine. And it took me about 2 weeks. I'm scared of technology. I admit that. Yes, I'm an influencer on social media, but that's about it. But if you were to tell me Zoom, click on
makes me and you both.
I swear, Yani, it's a fact. It's a fact, Yani. It's not something, and I speak about it openly now because I'm over it.
Yes.
And what I'm trying to say is that you learn. When we say life is up and down, it's like a hill, and then you go down and you go up again. The skills that I learned in the first 5 years, they helped me run the 3 years, the successful 3 years. I had the COVID-19, they gave me a new set of skills to run for the next wave. If COVID-19 didn't come, I wouldn't have been able to face artificial intelligence. I wouldn't have to find my digital voice in a digital space. I shifted my mentality from physical to virtual. And you will not believe, Dr. Hanan, I was able to reach to thousands of people just through camera. Just through my space, this room. I wouldn't have been able to do that if I were training 15 or 30 people at a time.
Yes, absolutely.
So it was the main skill that I learned was adaptation skills. Do you have that?
Flexibility, yeah, exactly.
Do you know how to manage fear? What is the type of fear that you're afraid of? What is it? Can you face it? I learned something called what you resist persists.
Yes.
So what we don't want and we run away from will always come back right at us. And if you don't face it, that's it. It's the end.
Even work many levels, Maya. As a matter of fact, I remember quite a few years when I had my health issues, right?
Mm.
I was resisting. I was like, well, if this drug is not working, let me try this drug and let me look into surgery and let me look into that. And I went to 5 surgeons and they all told me hysterectomy. And
Mm.
now I look back and I look, I'm like, of course, if you go to a surgeon, he's going to tell you surgery. This is his bread and butter, right? But
Obviously.
you're in it, yeah, you're forcing it and you force it. And only until when I stepped back and I looked at it from, a third eye or a bird's eye view, where I saw the moving parts in the puzzle, that I said, okay, so maybe we need to go outside the protocols or the, conventional. And looking back, I was very grateful for that. I mean, going through the health issues at that time, it's like, everybody goes through, why me, or why is this happening to me? Woe is me. I never hurt anybody. I'm a good person, blah, blah, blah. You go through that, self-pity mode.
Of
But now
course.
I look back and I say, oh my God, thank God I did go through that, because I needed that slap over the head, if you will, to wake up and say, look, you could do more for people better and without any of the, invasive measures that you were always, pushing as
Mm. As a practitioner, yes. Very true. Very true.
absolutely.
It's what you learn. Okay, so people say, I'm stuck in the circumstance. I'm stuck in the circumstance. I can't believe I'm affected by every circumstance that comes my way. I needed, at the time that I was at home, I needed some help. And I think that's a key for you to realize that you cannot do things alone.
Yes.
Reach out to people that can help you, can offer it to you. We go back to the fact of taboo. No, I don't want to talk to anybody about it. People will say I'm crazy. I actually reached out to Theta Healing, and I thought to myself, I need to talk to somebody. I need some guidance. And they taught me something very, very important. Don't get hung up with the circumstance.
Yes.
Pull yourself out and try to see what is the learning
Exactly.
that the universe is trying to give you. Universe could be Allah, could be energy, could whatever you want to call it. Yani it's all the same at the end of the day. Superpower. We believe in a superpower. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. So what happens is that when you extract yourself from the circumstance, you begin to see clearly. Now, extracting yourself is not an easy thing. I'm sure for you it wasn't.
No.
You could be the one that's ill. How on earth do you want me to extract myself out of my body? What do you do? Wallah, it's a question that I myself, I'm still trying. I mean, kudos for you, mashallah. I don't know how you did it, mashallah. But it's a struggle to think above it and accept the suffering as a lesson or a learning. That will make you even more sane. You get it, why it's happening. And believe it or not, as you say in the book, it helps you recover. It helps you heal.
Yes. Exactly. And it's scientifically proving. I mean, we could say our experiences and our firsthand and give our tips and ideas, but actually, because science is everything, numbers is everything for me, right? So even the epigenetics, what is the meaning of epigenetics? This is like the leading next AI, if you call it, of health or in the health industry. So epigenetics literally says that it's not your DNA that predisposes you to disease. It's actually the environment that you surround yourself with physically and psychologically. Which shows and proves that if you were to understand what is in your environment, what is happening that is affecting you physically and mentally, that would give you at least the GPS to get the direction of what needs to change for you in order to create that. And for me, that illness that I had to, or that health journey that I had to, because 25 years in healthcare being spoon-fed that headaches, ibuprofen, body aches, Celebrex, this and that. It's just like A equals B, A equals B. So I needed to go through that for me to come out and say, oh, wait a minute. No, actually, it could be A equals C. I had to go get out and experience this situation, just like you had to experience those 5 years to come out and be able to say, no, guys, this is the way, or this is how there's an easier way, if you will. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that as you were speaking, I just thought of something. I thought of like all the noise that when you believe something is unconventional, and you see that the answer is this, and you believe in your energy, and you believe in your way of healing, and the people around you are like, what are you doing? This is not right. Do this. It's so hard to stick to your guns and say, no, I know this is going to happen. I know this is the solution. Right. That is challenging. And that's, I think, what a lot of us intend to do things and we want to do, but people around us say, no, you're not good enough for it. Or you don't dream too big, or don't think that far, because you're not good for it, if you may. But they don't say it. They say, what are you dreaming? They start saying these things. So you begin to doubt yourself. And the idea here is, how do you sit and say, no, I know I can do this. I'm not going to listen to I'm going to block out everything. That is a skill on its own. To believe in your vision, to believe in your purpose, to believe, for all I could think, I believe it costed me a marriage, but my children respect me very much. You will never have it all. My children look up to me and they say, Mom, you've done wonders. I mean, we're impressed. Like, wow. Alhamdulillah, still am. I mean, I have 2 books in being published as we speak, inshallah. One was pre-COVID and one is during COVID. I finished that. And alhamdulillah, inshallah, everything will be, moving forward. But it's just like, when you see something that people don't see, stick to it. I think that's especially when it's not only about you. Remember, we talk about being selfish, but never be selfish alone. You have to be selfish to you to give back better to others. So when you have that philosophy, don't let anybody doubt you. I'm not saying don't get divorced. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying everybody has their own journey. For me, there are people that even the closest people didn't accept it. They couldn't accept it. And I didn't mean bad. I meant well. But it doesn't mean that they're bad either. But just do the right thing and move on.
It's called a secret genius. Einstein calls it, each one of us has their own secret genius. Now, whether you accept it, or you follow, like you said, people denying it or trying to tell you, no, don't listen to that, it doesn't make sense, do the conventional way. But I believe that each one of us has, some people call it instinct, some people call it your gut, some people, but they're actually scientific, there's a word for it, and it's called your secret genius. So make sure you befriend that secret genius and allow them to speak to you, instead of hushing them, because we hush it through, like you just mentioned, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, who am I? Let's not go make any waves, and just go with the norm, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely, well said. Yeah.
So yeah, I want to speak to you because we touched upon the digital aspect and AI and all that. Now you're working on a higher vision on creating a digital space. How do we create creative, caring, kindness with family and friends? I think these are all takeaways, if you will, or learnings, if you will, from COVID-19. Can you elaborate on that with the?
Actually, I put together workshop was about an hour and a half on taking, what takeaways you have from COVID-19. And I gathered those from my experience. So basically, as thinkers, as you know, Dr. Hanan, we observe even our thoughts. We observe even how we are affected, and we describe those clearly. And I think that's what defines how you are able to define you better. How you're able to improve you better is by clearly defining why are the things that are happening to you, why are you being affected by it, and then ask, how are you being? So if you're anxious, why am I anxious? Why? And how can I fix it? So with COVID-19, I actually have them down here. We have five, for me personally, and I gave this to people, we all have the same 5 takeaways. I was, there's that self-discipline part where you are able to set goals and stick to them. That alone is basic. This not just the basic, it's the basis of being able to run alone in COVID-19, because nobody's with you. There is there's no clocking in, clocking out. There is no such thing as anybody's going to call you any minute, or they're telling you, where are you? Yes, you have to get into meetings. But then what if you have to, for example, prepare for an exam on your own and nobody's there to help you? What are you going to do? So there is that self-discipline part that is very important. And the way I did it is that I used to put 5 things that I had to do every day. So you create a habit, you build a habit. You build a habit, you do it 21 days to 40 days. Harvard research says that to build a habit, you need 66 days to rebuild a habit. So that was one, that's how I started. The second thing, how can you be creative in a digital space? That is something that I struggled with. And it almost felt like you feel like you don't have arms and legs anymore, because arms and legs and cars were the means of getting to where you needed to do and do whatever you had to do. And it's almost like, even when I'm in presentations, standing in front of you, you hide behind those slides. But in front of this camera, you can't hide. It's just you and everybody else. So I learned that in a digital space, you have to be more human. To be involved. So digital space, there's that digital space, and you have to be more in relation with human beings. And so everything had to be around storytelling. Everything had to be around showing vulnerability, showing humility. I'm talking as a speaker and trainer, training thousands of people. Walillah alhamd, I feel blessed that I wouldn't have been able to reach to this number. I remember one session I spoke 1 hour. There were about 3,600 people on that same Zoom call. Mashallah, it was like mind-blowing. I was like, do you understand the weight? I was talking to myself. Do you understand the weight of that? The weight of that there is that influencing part that I built. Okay, I've been in social media for quite some time, but especially in COVID-19, people were attached to the digital space. So for me, I had to be relevant in a digital space. So I had to speak. What I did, I went on every platform, every digital platform I could get my hands on. Zoom, WebEx, and on every humanitarian volunteer. So I was able to do volunteering from my spot. And then and then I started doing Instagram. I started by Instagram Live, and I found people were like, wow, we want more of this. So this started every Saturday I did an Instagram Live. And that kind of got my name out, and people started calling me for training, paid training. So my paid training started working. And then the volunteer part started working. So basically, just showing humility and vulnerability in digital space saved me. Showing that I don't know much about technology, and talking more about emotional emotional similarities, I was able
Relation.
to help. And that goes, by the way, same to family, friends, children. I reconnected better with my children. We were able to sit together more. We were able, in digital space, believe it or not, you start looking for people. You start looking to be with people because you were disconnected. Which brings me to the third point, and you begin to appreciate family and friends, and you begin to concentrate on how can I be kind and how can I be caring and how can I be better of a giver. So you begin to look for ways to give back to others, even the closest that you can be. So online shopping was something that I used to not be a big part of, but then that happened in my life. Online banking as well. Believe it or not, I wasn't a big fan. I have, alhamdulillah, my driver goes and he deposits. It's just, you think of things and you can do actually everything right from your house. So that was something that I also realized too. Also, in a digital space, I looked for spiritual connection. So I was closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, asking for guidance. There was this serenity, that because there's a difference between when you're alone and lonely. So when you're alone by choice. But when you're lonely negatively in your head. And in COVID-19, you were forced to be alone. And after being forced to be alone, you had to choose, are you alone or are you lonely? Which one are you? So spiritually, I was able to connect with the Lord more and improve on because we live in a very fast pace.
Yes.
I realized that when I drove after 3 weeks, we were not allowed to drive, right? And then I drove on 60 kilometers per hour, and I found it very fast, very fast. And then I looked at myself, it's only 60. I felt it was 100. I realized that it doesn't mean that you're on a slower pace, that your productivity doesn't go up. You could be running so fast, but your productivity level and quality level goes down because you're doing so many things at the same time and you're not concentrating on one thing. So those were the lessons that I took away. And then again, find your digital being in a digital space, whether it was through business, through education, through your passion, whether it's volunteering, or there's a community for everything. You just need to look for it and find your voice there. It's very important to be relevant in the digital space. Right? I'm the emotional intelligence bit, but use your emotional intelligence to be able to find your voice in a digital space. And it's a wonderful voice. You'll be amazed.
Yes. I can't believe 45 minutes has just flew. Can you believe it? I need, we have to connect more. Inshallah, when you have launched your book, you have to come back. We have to talk about it, promote it, inshallah. But what I usually do at the end of the show is I randomly will pick up a quote from my book, and usually, subhanallah, it sums up the show. It sums up the session. Okay, so here I just opened to this page. Okay, and I'll read you the quote. And what we usually do is with the last words of this quote, you give me your last words of how it resonated with you, your takeaway or your input on it. Okay. So, remove the toxins is the title of this chapter. Okay. Interesting, right? Patients are patients because they have too much outside programming that they have lost touch with their inner program.
Say that again because it disconnected.
Patients are patients because they have too much outside programming that they have lost touch with their inner program.
Patients as in patience or patience?
Patients as being sick, like people who get sick.
So they lost their?
They had too much outside programming.
Okay.
They have lost touch with their inner programming.
Yes, I definitely agree to that, because if I were to relate to it, it's again the environment that makes you.
Yes.
The environment is what you think is right, because everybody is doing it, everybody is saying it. And that sort of drives you to be the person you are today, because that's the norm. And God forbid you go against the norm, then you become an outcast. And that's what happens in a lot of us successful people. Alhamdulillah, blessed. There's always a price to it.
Yes.
If I were to say, I would say, listen to your inner voice. It's that little low voice that says, this is not right. Or this is, I like this. This speaks to me. The inner voice is not your ego. The difference between the inner voice and the ego is a loud voice that says, that is usually has a negative twist to it. That no, I will not allow them to say this. So that there's that energy. But then the inner voice would say, that doesn't sound right. I feel that what they're saying is not that accurate, or I don't seem to feel that I'm in line or aligned with that kind of vibration or that kind of thought. Ego has more stubbornness in it, and usually the stubbornness is used against, not toward, not for you. That inner voice, the difference is that there's no stubbornness, and you don't. It's all good for you and for everybody else. But there's no hurting here. So yes, listen to your inner voice and respect values. This is another thing I think that we need to make sure that people know. At the end of the day, I still have my hijab on. Because I believe in it and I speak to it. You do whatever you want, but you still have those values that you need to be true to, whether your value system, your religion, your culture. But there are times where you can come out as an exception, kindly. If you want to change with kindness. Convince, be patient, don't be rude. Be quiet, have that subtleness in your attitude and gain that respect. Rasul Sallallahu and I know we don't, but we aspire to be something like that. As-Sadiq al-Amin. He was believed and honored because he was loyal, and he people, although he started talking about God and seemed crazy, but people still kind of believed because they know he has history. Build that history with people. Let people trust your decisions. But that takes time. It's not easy.
Thank you so much, Maya. It's been a pleasure having you today. And take your time. And hopefully you let us know when your books are out. What is the title? Do you have
Not yet, but in the process. The first book is translated. It's actually dual. It's English, Arabic, but the second is Arabic.
MashaAllah, inshallah. So you definitely have to come back, and we have to speak about the book as well.
Absolutely. Ibnillah, inshallah. Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Hanan. It's a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. And we have to catch up, huh? Promise.
Promise, for sure. Habibti.
Yes, Habibti. Take care, everyone.
You too.
Bye-bye.